So in lesson 10-1, we looked at what a rate was and how to find equivalent rates. Today we're going to be looking at and understanding what a unit rate is. So we are going to be finding the unit rate by using division to help us find it. And then we're going to solve problems using unit rate. Excuse me. So if we take a look at our solve and share, it says Galena's high-speed model train can travel 10 meters in 4 seconds at a constant speed. How far can the train travel in 30 seconds? And so you'll notice that if we look at this table, I have for seconds, I have 4, 1, and 30. And so the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the unit rate. And so to find the unit rate, what I'm going to do is I am going to take the 10 meters. So I'm going to take the 10 meters and I'm going to divide that by 4 seconds. And so when I divide, and the reason that I do this, when I divide the 10 meters by 4 seconds, and let me move this over so I have some room. When I divide 10 meters by 4 seconds, what I'm really doing is I'm really dividing both the numerator and the denominator by 4. And when I divide both the numerator and the denominator by 4, that gives me seconds, gives me 1 second. So a unit rate is where one of my units of measurement is at 1. And so I divided by 4 to get my unit rate to be at 1 second because the problem is asking me to find how far she went in 30 seconds. So it wouldn't make sense for me to find the unit rate for meters. I need to find the unit rate for seconds. And so I'm going to divide 10 by 4. And when I divide 10 by 4, I'm going to get 2.5 meters. And so when I get 2.5 meters for 1 second, so let me put that in my box. Okay, so I have 2.5 meters for 1 second. To find 30 seconds, what I would do is I would now take my unit rate, which is 2.5 meters per second, and I would times that by 30. And so when I times 2.5 by 30, so I'm going to do 2.5 times 30 by 30, because again, we're working in a rate. So whenever I do the numerator, I have to do the denominator. So I divide both 2.5 by 30 and 1 by 30. And when I do that, I end up with 75. And so she will travel 75 meters in 30 seconds. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working on today. We're going to be working on finding that unit rate by dividing both the numerator and denominator of my ratio by the same value, and that will give me one of my units of measurement will be a 1. The other one will not be a 1, and that will tell me my unit rate. Okay, so if we come down and we take a look at our construct arguments, it says, explain how finding the distance a train can travel in 1 second helps you solve the problem. So when we look at how it helps me to solve the problem, it'll come up here and I'll drag down my text box. So what this is going to do is once I know how far the train has traveled, in 1 second, it's going to be easy for me to multiply that rate by 30 to see how far the train can travel in 30 seconds. So once I find that unit rate, I can take that unit rate and I can multiply it by 30, I can multiply it by 120, I can multiply it by 560, and that would tell me how many meters I would travel. So I can use that unit rate to help me determine how far the train can travel in X number of seconds. All right, so let's go ahead and move into the Convince Me page and look at our visual learning. Rate in which the comparison is to 1 unit. So again, we get one of the values to 1. So a bicycle tour group travels 320 miles in 5 days. How far could they travel in 8 days if they maintain the same rate of speed? So we're looking for right here. It says what ratio is a unit rate for the miles traveled in one day. We're looking, because I'm looking at how far they could travel in 8 days. Ooh, I don't want to do that. Never mind. Go away. How far they travel in 8 days. We are going to be looking at, I don't know what I did here. We're going to be looking at how far they travel in one day. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to find the unit rate. So to find the unit rate, I am going to take 320. So I'm going to take 320 over 5, right? So I have 5 days and I have miles. And I'm going to divide that by the same value. And the value that I'm going to divide that by is going to be 5. And the reason that I'm dividing it by 5 is once I divide both the 320 and the 5 by 5, that will give me 1 day. It will start giving me the unit rate. And so when I divide 320 by 5, I end up with 64 miles. So bicycle tour group is traveling 64 miles per day. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that unit rate to find the equivalent rate. So you'll notice here I take my unit rate of 64 miles per 1 day, and I'm going to multiply that by how many days I'm traveling, which is going to be by 8 days. And when I multiply, you'll see that we get 512 miles for 8 days. And so it's really important, remember, when we're using rate that we include our units of measurement. All right. So if we look at a canoeing club travels 78 miles in 3 days, how far could they travel in 5 days if they maintain the same speed? Explain your thinking. And so when I look at this one, I need to first find the unit rate. So as I'm finding the unit rate, what I need to do is I need to take the 78 miles in the 3 days. So again, unit of measurements. And I am going to divide. It hates this division symbol. And I'm going to divide both values by 3. And again, because I want to find that unit rate of how many days. And so that'll give me the unit rate of 1 day. And so 78 miles divided by 3 is going to be 28 miles. So I end up with 28 miles per day. And so now what I need to do is I need to take that 28 miles per day and I'm going to multiply it by 5. And when I multiply it by 5, that's going to give me 5 days. So there's my unit of measurement. And then 26. My unit rate is 26. 26 times 5 is going to be 130. So they travel 130 miles in 5 days. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and move to our next page. And so when we take a look at our guided practice, it says, number 1, a bathroom shower steams 5 gallons of water in 2 minutes. Find the unit rate for gallons per minute and describe it in words. All right. So we're finding the unit rate for gallons of water in 2 minutes. So when I do this, what I'm going to do is, let's see where I can draw. Where does my drawing come into play? Right there. Okay. So I'm going to take 5 gallons and I'm going to divide it by 2. So 5 gallons divided by 2 min. And I divide both the numerator and the denominator by 2. And when I divide that by 2, 5 divided by 2 is going to be 2.5. Again, it doesn't like my dots. So let me see. So 2.5 gallons. Okay. So I have 2.5 gallons per 1 minute. So that's my unit rate. How I would describe that in words is 2.5 gallons per minute. All right. So I'm going to put that there. So I have 2.5 gallons per minute. Now, I'm going to leave this unit rate up here, but I'm going to get rid of the word description because what I want you to look at is how the unit rate changes when we find a different value for the one. So when I'm looking for a different measurement, because on B, it says find the unit rate for minutes per gallon and describe it in words. So if I have 5 gallons, so minutes per gallon, I'm going to do 2 minutes as my top value of my ratio because it's 2 minutes per 5 gallons. So I'm writing this rate differently. And when I do that, because I'm looking per gallon instead of per minute, I'm going to divide both values by 5. And when I divide both values by 5, 2 divided by 5 is going to be equal to 0.4. So I have 0.4 minutes, and then I have 1 gallon. And so per gallon, it takes 4/10 of a minute for 1 gallon of water to be used. So look at the differences in the rates. You do not end up with the same unit rate because here I divided by 5, here I divided by 2. So it's very important when you guys are looking for unit rates to make sure that you are finding the correct unit rate, because if I find the wrong unit rate, I'm going to end up having the wrong answers when I start looking at problems. Okay. So we take a look at problem number 3. It says, how many gallons of water does the shower steam in 6 minutes? So we're looking at this. We're going to use this unit rate, 2.5 gallons per 1 minute. So I'm going to take 2.5. So let me just delete this one. I'm going to take 2.5 and I'm going to multiply by 2.5. So 2.5 gallons per 1 minute. And I'm going to times that by 6. And then when I do 2.5 times 6, I end up with 15 minutes or 15 gallons per 6 minutes. So it's 15 gallons per 6 minutes. So again, making sure that you include those units of measurement. Okay. It says how long, number 3, how long can someone shower in order to only use 10 gallons of water? So I'm not going to use the 15 or the gallons per minute. I'm going to use the minutes per gallon for this one. So I'm going to use the ratio of 4/10 of a minute for 1 gallon. And I'm looking to find how many minutes it will take me to get to 10 gallons of water. And so when I get to 10 gallons of water, I end up with 4 minutes. Okay, so that's how we're going to find our unit rate. So to find a unit rate, you're going to divide by the value that you are looking for. So it's going to be the one of days. So let's pop down to your independent practice and see here. So here it's finding the unit rate for miles per gallon, centimeters per hour, snacks per student, songs per hour. If you look here, it's pages per minute, beans per bag, ounces per bag, miles per gallon. So generally the top value is not what we're going to find the unit rate. It's going to be the bottom value. So I would really like for you to go ahead and do all of 4 through 11. Those are going to be the problems that I want. I want you guys practicing finding that unit rate and then taking that unit rate and multiplying it by different values. And then when we take a look at your math practices and problem solving, I would like for you to do the following problems. 12 through 14 using this table, and then I'd like for you to do problem number 18.